You think you know Henry VIII? The powerful king? The guy with 6 wives? It's the man who broke England from the Catholic Church? Forget all of it. What history books tell you is a royal fairy tale. The truth is a stomach-churning horror story that textbooks are too terrified to print. We're about to uncover the real Henry VIII. A king so monstrously obese he was moved by machines. A man whose festering body smelled so foul that servants would vomit just from being near him. A tyrant whose corpse was so full of putrid gas that it literally exploded inside its coffin. This isn't history. This is a monster movie. And you're about to discover the gruesome secrets that prove the most powerful man in England was a walking, rotting, living nightmare. 1. The walking corpse. Let us start with the most shocking fact about Henry VIII. By the end of his life, he was no longer a man. He was a walking biohazard. We're talking about a king with a 54-inch waist, weighing a staggering 400 pounds in an age where men were lucky to weigh 150, but the weight was on the horror show. The real horror was his legs. They were covered in massive, weeping ulcers, gaping wounds of rotted flesh that never healed. They oozed a constant river of pus and diseased fluid, and the stench. The stench was a weapon. Courtiers described the smell of the king's rotting body as being so overpowering it could be detected 3 rooms away. Servants, forced to dress him, would literally gag and run from the room. They drew straws to decide who would endure the punishment of touching the king, of getting close to the source of that putrid perfume of death.
Oh.
But what turned him into this grotesque spectacle? You won't learn this in history class, but modern experts believe it started with a traumatic brain injury from a jousting accident in 1536. He was knocked unconscious for 2 solid hours or death sentence in medieval times. The damage likely destroyed his personality, transforming a proud young king into the paranoid, rage-filled monster he became. Everyone knows about the 6 wives. Divorced, beheaded, died. It's a neat little rhyme that sanitizes one of the most brutal campaigns of psychological torture ever inflicted by a husband. Take Anne Boleyn. Henry didn't just have her killed. He orchestrated a sick theatrical frame-up, torturing her musician into a false confession of adultery. But here's the truly sadistic part. Henry forced Anne to watch as 5 men, including her own brother, were publicly executed for supposedly sleeping with her. He made her stand there, knowing she was next, and watch innocent men die because of his paranoid fantasies. Then there was Catherine Howard, a teenager fed to a monster. When Henry discovered she wasn't a virgin, he didn't just execute her. He was so consumed by his petty rage that he passed a new law making it treason for any woman to marry the king without disclosing her entire sexual history. Imagine being a tyrant so fragile you rewrite the laws of a nation because your teenage wife had a past. 3. The appetite of a demon. If you think Henry's body was a nightmare, wait until you hear what he put into it. The man didn't eat like a king. He ate like he was trying to devour the world itself. He consumed an estimated 5,000 calories a day, more than double what an active man needs all. While being so immobile, he was basically furniture. A typical royal meal for Henry wasn't a plate. It was a parade of corpses. An entire roasted pig, dozens of chickens, swans, peacocks, mountains of bread, and enough wine to drown a horse. The royal kitchens employed over 200 people working 24/7 just to feed his gluttony. But here's where it gets truly bizarre. When Henry believed certain foods had magical powers, he would gorge on swan, believing it made him more graceful. He'd eat mountains of deer to become a better hunter. This wasn't just eating, it was a superstitious ritual performed on an industrial scale. For death couldn't even stop the chaos. You'd think the horror would end with his death, but you'd be wrong. Henry VIII was so committed to being a disaster that even his corpse managed to cause one last horrifying spectacle. In his final days, his leg wounds were so infected that chunks of his rotting flesh would literally fall off his body as servants moved him. They had to follow him around with cloths to clean up the pieces of the king that were dropping on the palace floors. When he finally died, his body was so swollen with the gases of internal decomposition that they had to build a specially reinforced lead-lined coffin. They sealed the bloated corpse inside, thinking they could contain the horror. They were very, very wrong. During the funeral procession, the pressure inside the coffin became too much. There was a loud bang, and the coffin exploded. The lead lining burst open, and the putrid, liquefied remains of Henry VIII splattered all over the inside of the hearse. The procession had to stop, while horrified servants cleaned up the royal goo with buckets. And here's a detail that will haunt your dreams. Historical accounts claim that dogs were seen licking the king's remains off the road where they had leaked from the coffin. The man who called himself God's chosen ruler ended his journey as dog food. His legacy isn't the Church of England. It's a masterclass in how absolute power and paranoia can rot a man from the inside out, turning a king into a monster and a body into a ticking time bomb of pure horror. If these disturbing royal secrets made you question everything you thought you knew, hit that subscribe button. Because the truths that history tries to bury are always the most horrifying.